experience will pass. A love once felt seems to be lost. Thought comes in with this or that. The bliss makes space for feeling flat. We're holding on to at all cost. It's so simple, it's bizarre. Love is who you really are. Love is freedom, love is truth, love is consciousness, it's you. You're not that old repertoire. There is nothing outside of love. There is only you. Everywhere you look, everything you touch, every experience, it is all a plain you. Sometimes clarity, sometimes smoke. You're sometimes rich, you're sometimes broke. You're going up, you're feeling down. It looked so great, but now you're drowned. Can't you see it's all a joke? Because there is nothing outside of love. There is only you. Everywhere you look, everything you touch, every experience, it is all a plain you. There is nothing outside of love. There is only you. Everywhere you look, everything you touch, every experience, it is all a plain you. It is all a plain you. It is just a game in you.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this open meeting live streamed. Welcome to those of you joining me on the Zoom, and also to those who are watching the live stream on YouTube or even the recording of the live stream. It's just so lovely to connect with you in this way. Yeah. So I always like to just take a moment to just look at you, those of you who are actually here on the Zoom. I get to see your faces. Yeah, unfortunately, those on the YouTube live stream, I can't see you. And also I can't interact with you. So if you have questions, then next time just join the Zoom. Yeah. I also want to thank those of you who've made very generous donations to support these regular open meetings. Everything helps. So thank you so much. And just while we're a couple of people just joining still. Okay. Yeah. So today's theme is letting go of control, a new kind of trust. Yeah, so we're going to get into that theme soon. Yeah, but first, I just wanted to invite you to a couple of things before we start. One thing is that every week on a Tuesday, we have an hour of silence meditation, I call it. And over the summer months, actually, it's just online, whereas normally it's in Portugal in person. So you're welcome to join, and that's also by donation. And that's every Tuesday at 10:30 a.m. UK or Portugal time. Yeah, so, and that's also live streamed or on the Zoom in the same way as this. And it'd be lovely to see you and just be in silence together. I find that so deeply nourishing, just to sit together in silence. And yeah, also we have this retreat in the Netherlands coming up soon, very soon, the 28th of July. We start, it's 5 days. And there are still a few places left if you want to join us. And at the moment, I'm offering the possibility, because we just have very little time left before we start, and there are a few more places available. I'm opening it on the basis of make me an offer. So I know that there are people who perhaps want to come and join us, but perhaps have found it financially challenging to be able to join. So if you feel in that way that you'd really love to join, then feel free to email us, yeah, with why you'd like to join and some kind of reasonable financial exchange offer. Yeah, and it would be great to have you with us if you really resonate with the message and long to spend this time diving deep into the exploration of who we are and how this is lived in the world, in our lives. Yeah. Okay. So those are the main things I wanted to say. And more details about all of that is on my website. So you can just take your time and have a look. So let's start by just taking a few minutes to tune in with how we're feeling in this moment. So I invite you to get comfortable, close your eyes. Take some deeper breaths, just settling onto this seat, this chair, wherever you are. Bringing your attention to the sensations of sitting in this chair. Bringing the focus from the outside world to the inner experience, whatever it is for you. The breath, the sensations, the feelings. Just really giving yourself permission to rest in this moment, whatever it is. Even if there are thoughts, thoughts are also welcome to be here. They're also included in this experience right now. But just noticing if there are thoughts that are imagining something other than what is, or remembering something that was, or making some kind of story, meaning, or just notice those thoughts. And then just gently bringing the attention back to a present experience. So I find it helpful to bring the attention to the sensations or the breath that are just very simple. Whereas thought might complicate sensations are just simply happening now. So then we can just take a few moments in silence, just to feel what is happening right now. As we're sitting here in silence, we can also just start to notice places in our physical experience where we notice that we are trying to hold on, trying to control anything, something. And that might be experienced as some kind of tension, some kind of effort or stress, or something completely else that only you have a sense of. It can be subtle or it can be more obvious. But just noticing how we are trying to control. Again, bring our attention to the breath. Again, taking some deeper breaths into the belly. Noticing the sensation of sitting on this seat or the feet on the ground. And then when we're ready, we can open our eyes. So our theme today is letting go of control and discovering actually a new kind of trust. So, first of all, we have to speak about what it means to control. Right? And I feel like we all have a sense of this already. And perhaps we notice in our own experience that we try to control in different ways. We all have our unique strategies or patterns, which are essentially about survival, learnt behaviours from a young age for various reasons. But essentially, it is about trying to control the experience or life or the outcomes so that we can feel safe or so that we can get what we feel we need, like love and acceptance, approval, safety. So there's good intentions, right? There's understandable intentions with this trying to control. And we can also feel it physically in the body as a kind of contraction or a tension or stress, effort, trying to do something, trying to be someone. And it's based in fear. So we might also feel fear and then a trying to control life so that we don't have to feel more fear, so that we can survive, right? Because fear also is part of the survival mechanism. And so there's nothing wrong with it. Let's start there, right? There's nothing wrong with trying to control. Because often, especially on the spiritual path, we can start to believe that there's something wrong with being a control freak, right? We have this term that we might call someone or even ourselves, oh, I'm such a control freak. And we might feel that about someone else, or even about ourselves, when we notice that there's a lot of that trying, that effort, that pushing away uncomfortable experiences, being perhaps quite rigid with how things should be, with maintaining certain rules or restrictions, limitations, because that feels safer. And perhaps that even informs our personality or our identity, who we think we are. And it can feel very scary to let go of that, or to even acknowledge that that's what we're doing. Because even when we look at it directly, it can feel scary that we are working so hard to keep everything so controlled and safe. And if we really acknowledge that, we have to admit that actually we feel terrified. And what are we scared of? Well, we all have a sense of the reality of life. That essentially it's all happening out of control. That it's all happening in this void, this unlimited emptiness, meaninglessness. That in fact there are no limitations, there are no boundaries, there isn't any me living my life we all have a sense of this. And we kind of have a push-pull feeling about that. On one hand, we're running away from it desperately because we're terrified of disappearing into that, of losing who we think we are, of death, in fact. But at the same time, also there can be a longing to just rest, to let go of all the effort, of all the trying to be someone and do something and get somewhere and hold it all together. Because trying to control takes a lot of effort. Right? We're working really hard, also physically, mentally, emotionally, in all ways, to hold it together. And that is a heavy burden. And it's also impossible. That's the other side of it. Life reflects to us again and again that no matter what we do, no matter how hard we work at trying to control, that actually it's impossible. Life is out of control. And maybe we can manage to hold it all together and be in control, apparently, for a while. But eventually something will happen. You know, some tragedy, some loss, some big change, some transition, something, right? Where we see, that actually there's no way around this. Life is happening out of control. And the sooner we realize that, actually, the better. And it's challenging, for sure. And it comes in degrees, right? We might realize, okay, this part is out of control. I can let go there, but I'm still holding on here, right? So, and that's very natural, right? It's very human, right? It can seem way too scary to let go of everything all at once. So we can also be gentle with ourselves and compassionate to these humans, right? Who are trying their best to survive with the tools that they have, that they've learned, right? And being a human in this crazy world is scary, right? We don't really know how to be, how to live, who to be. And we're just taking one step after another in nothingness, in emptiness. And we risk death in each moment, actually, or at least it can feel like that. And the whole of life essentially is slipping through our fingers. We are dying moment to moment, right? We are losing control in every moment. So, of course, it's scary. So this is the push-pull. It's like we acknowledge the inevitable, but at the same time, we're holding desperately to some kind of illusion of control. So then, what does it mean to trust, to surrender? Well, first of all, we can take it on as a beautiful spiritual concept, an attitude. But really, having an attitude of trust or surrender is just another way to control. It's just a little bit more sneaky, because then we hold on to an idea of I'm someone who trusts in life or the universe or existence. And that becomes a way to live in the world. And it can be supportive for a while, but eventually we have to let go of that as well. We have to let go of every attitude, every concept, everything actually, and free fall in not knowing, in not understanding, in risking not surviving, in feeling the fear, the terror, staying with it, and still not knowing. Holding this human with compassion and yet still not knowing. Noticing where we're trying to control and do and become and fix, and we're stressfully trying to survive in life. And inviting this human, not out of any should or must or any concept or self-judgment or anything like that, but just inviting this human to be curious with this tension, with this stress, with this effort, with this controlling. Noticing it, feeling it. How does it feel in the body? Feeling the pain of it. Feeling the hopelessness of it, actually. Feeling the fear with it. And still noticing how we are free-falling anyway. Even if we're trying to hold on desperately, we're still free-falling. So this is a much bigger surrender, bigger than anything that we have known intellectually, mentally. It's bigger than any experience of temporary surrender or an attitude of trust or a temporary experience of trusting. It's essentially the recognition of who we really are. That free fall, that emptiness that is unlimited, that always knows everything that is happening in the experience that arises in it. And that's unconditional love. And that unconditional knowing, seeing, is what holds the human in whatever he or she is going through. The trying to control, or whatever human pattern, mechanism, or strategy is arising, and the sensations that go with that, is being held in that knowing of it, that knows that it's just a human strategy. It's impossible to actually do what it's trying to do. Yeah, this human is trying to survive. It's inevitable that this human won't survive. Right? Eventually we will all die. But it's a program, it's a human program, and there's nothing wrong with that. We are programmed to try to survive no matter what. So we feel that, we acknowledge that, and we acknowledge the limitations of that, the futility of that. And we have compassion and love for these humans that are just trying their best to survive. And this is trust, right? This is the bigger trust. A trust that trusts even when we don't trust. A trust that is so big that holds us no matter what. A surrender that is absolutely surrendered even when the experience, the human experience, is of trying to control and not surrendering. And this is so paradoxical. And this is something that the mind can never understand or grasp. But it is like this. And this is a relief, actually, that you don't need to try to trust or try to surrender. In fact, it's the trying that is just more trying to control. So it's actually the opposite. It's noticing the trying, taking a deep breath and inviting yourself to see that it's futile, right? But okay, try, no problem. This human's welcome to try. But I am not limited to this human. I experience this human fully, but I am not limited and located in here. I am aware of the experience of this human. I'm holding this human in absolute love in each moment. So I'd love to hear from you. If you have any questions, if you'd like to have a dialogue, you can raise your hand. And you can also type a question in the chat as well. Yeah. Yeah, I can see a question from Kathy in the chat. How would you suggest we notice the trying? It can be so sneaky. Yeah, it's true. It can be sneaky. Yeah, and first of all, to say that you may not notice it all, and that's all right, first of all. You know, we don't have to notice all the trying in order to become free or surrender or trust. So that, first of all, takes the pressure off. Right? We're not trying to get to some perfect state where we let go of all the trying. Right? So, yeah, it's much more about being curious. Right? So it's a different attitude to it in a way. Yeah, so we might notice that there is effort or trying happening physically where we feel some kind of like we're trying to do something, we're trying to be someone, and it might feel like a very subtle sensation. And you can notice that during your day. It's not that you have to just sit still and notice. You might notice as you're interacting with someone, for example, that there's some pattern in you that's playing out, some kind of effort or trying to be someone or trying to control the situation so that it is easier or peaceful or non-confrontational, or that you are liked by the other, right? That you get their approval. So you might be trying to control what happens, for example. Right? And you can look at the actual pattern or the thoughts and the thought story that happens, but you can also at the same time notice the sensations that are happening at the same time as some kind of strategy like that. Just with a curiosity, with a lightness, not with trying to fix it or get rid of it or heal it. It's welcome to be here forever. We're never going to clean ourselves up completely. And we don't need to. We're human. We're going to be a mess forever. You know? And it's very freeing to see it like that. Yeah. Yeah, thanks, Kathy. The word curious is helpful, yes. Yeah, I like to see it like that because it's light. Yeah, almost like a detective, a kind of, or not even detective, that's even too serious. Like, yeah, just like a child, actually. Just, yeah, discovering the world for the first time. Like, oh, what is this sensation? Right. Mm. And it doesn't even have to have a heavy meaning, just being curious with the sensations. Yeah. Okay. And I see another one in the chat by Peter. Notice that I control to prevent becoming a victim from other people. Can you comment on that? So you notice that in interactions that you're trying not to be a victim with other people. Yeah. Well, the victim strategy is a strong one, right? And perhaps very familiar for many people. We all have these kind of familiar identities that we tend to fall into in times of threat or discomfort in some way. And it can be very uncomfortable, painful. Yeah, and so then the opposite can be trying to control so that we don't fall into that position because it is uncomfortable and painful. Yeah, and again, if we are compassionate with ourselves and we see these mechanisms playing out and we can feel how it feels in the body, we just slowly become more aware of these things. And we're not trying to get rid of them. We're just becoming more aware of them. As I said before, staying curious. That I notice in my own experience that this brings more space around these mechanisms or these identities. The more we get to know them, the more we kind of befriend them. They're welcome to be here because they're just human things happening. They never determine who I really am. So I'm never a victim, really. It's never really who I am, even if in the human dynamics that happen, that I end up falling into that position in an interaction. It's never really who I am. So if that happens, we might feel the pain of that. We might get into some kind of messy situation or complicated situation with someone where it's a kind of, if you feel that it's unhealthy, that dynamic. And staying curious with it all the time, staying open to feeling the pain of that or the shame of that. And also not blaming ourselves for it. This is how it is. We forgive ourselves automatically because we're human. I'm not any of these identities. I'm not limited to any of them. And already that gives so much space. And then we get to know the victim. What does it feel like to feel the victim? Just really feeling that. And what does it feel like to feel the opposite to the victim? And then it also gives space to get to know these things. Because if we are taking ourselves to be these identities, like if I really believe I am the victim, then we don't really want to feel it. We just want to get away from it because it's painful and we want to get out of that to be someone who's not a victim. Perhaps we have an idea or about what it means about me if I'm a victim. Maybe we feel ashamed or embarrassed. But if we can see that it's just an identity arising in who I am. And there are many of these different identities arising and falling away in different circumstances. Then we can look at this victim a little bit more closely because it doesn't ever mean anything about who I am. Then I'm free to be a victim, even if it's uncomfortable. I don't need to fight against it. And just that already gives some space around it. And in my experience with that, then naturally I don't fall into that so much because there's more space around it and I've got to know it more. Yeah. Okay. Anyone else? Rose.
Hi.
Hi.
You might need to turn your volume down. Is it still, can you hear an echo? Is it okay?
Yeah, I do hear an echo, yeah.
Yeah, I don't really know how I'm going to describe this, but I feel like I had an expectation before the webinar that I was going to get a new way of doing trust. And
Yeah.
there's a bit of disappointment because that was the controller wanting to find a method or a technique that was going to save me.
Yeah. Good to see that.
Yeah. So there is disappointment, but there's also this sense of I can feel the letting go of what I thought I needed to be
Mm.
in this trusting. So what I was doing before, the technique was trusting it was going to work out how I wanted it to go. And what I see now or sense now is that that is the controller, but also it's just like, well, there's nobody there to do that or to have an idea of how it should be.
Yeah.
But actually, it's not really, I don't like it or whatever, that it's not liked because it's disappointing. But I feel like a glimmer of liberation in just seeing that.
Mm. Yeah, it's not comfortable. You know, we like to have something to hold on to.
Mm. But
It's
I
just,
hadn't even realized that I had this kind of faux trust.
mm. Yeah. You know, that's the nature of the mind also, is that you let go in some way and then it finds its ways to build it up again. And then you realize again, oh, look, I'm holding on to something. Oh, okay, I let go again. Or in a different way, right? We're constantly kind of holding on and letting go and holding on and letting go. This seems to be also just like the nature of life, these waves of contraction and expansion,
Mm.
contraction, expansion. And it's beautiful, isn't it? Like to have those moments where we realize, oh, I'm holding on. Okay, let's relax again. Even though it's disappointing, but there's something deeper that loves that,
Mm.
longs for that, that is here for that, actually, to keep losing, right? And to keep falling back into the ocean of trust that is who you are. You know, really, you don't want to be holding on to something that is not real trust. You know,
It's also so tiring. I feel like the exhaustion of the trying to hold on in
yeah,
so many little, I mean, just taking this time to explore it has made me realize all this tiny little areas where it's working like that, the holding on, and each of them is just creating more tiredness.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and all we can do is have a little laugh in a way and relax, because we laugh in a way at the limitation of this human.
Mhm.
It's trying to control life itself. What a joke, actually. How can it control anything? It's just this little arising bunch of sensations, or not even that. Life is unlimited, it's the whole of nature. It's happening out of control, whether we like it or not.
Mm.
And it's also, just one more thing to say, is also it's in our culture somehow, in our society, right? To keep believing that we can control, right? Like, whether it is about insurance policies or, planning for the future, or, I don't know, there's all kinds of ways that we are trying to build walls, the houses that we live in, I don't know, all kinds of, there's so everywhere you look, there's ways that we are trying to control. Um, and it seems especially part of the Western culture, right, that we are believing actually that we can control. And it's actually an arrogance, really, of humanity, that we somehow have the ability to tame nature and control nature. I mean, who do we think we are that we can do that? Right? I see it even, taking walks. I'm now staying at my parents' house here, and taking walks in the nearby environment here, and I see the houses where people have these bushes that they have they've cut the bushes in certain shapes, right? To kind of tame nature, to make it all perfectly, to tame the wildness of nature, so that it is perfectly round, or they come up with some other creative shapes. But as soon as one branch starts to grow out, oh no, they cut it back into shape again. Nature must be tamed, and it's a losing battle. We just can't tame it. We can't control it. And really, we don't want to. We love the wildness of nature because it's the wildness of our own heart. And that's what we love about nature, actually being out in nature. It's what we love in the nature of life. So this is that kind of push-pull in it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Rose. And the other thing to say is that life is messy, right? It's uncomfortable, it's painful, it's frightening, and it's just how it is, right? And again, it's in our culture to try to prevent ourselves from feeling the messiness or experiencing the messiness or the discomfort. Because somehow we have the idea that if we can control it, then we'll be happy, right? We try to push away anything that is negative, we deem negative, right? We call it negative. And we polarize life, right? We say, okay, this is not okay. I don't like this. This is unacceptable. This is unhappy or just bad. And then if we get rid of all of that and really work hard to control that so that it stays down and covered, then we'll be happy. And we work hard to be very positive and sweet and fix and heal and cover it all up with a layer of sweetness that is actually, we can feel it's very superficial and very, it's not very deep, and it doesn't take much to scratch the surface, and then all the mess and the ugliness and the pain and the suffering and the fear is all there, and the anger and the grief and it's all there. And this thin layer of positivity is what we do often in our society, right? We're working so hard to keep it happy, keep it positive. And actually, it's a relief to stop doing that and to acknowledge the mess, to feel it, to let it in, to be real, right? To go into the depths of hell, the depths of our humanity, because there is where we can meet also true aliveness in our human experience. We can't know true joy, true aliveness, when it's just this thin layer of happiness. It's not real happiness. It's happiness that is dependent on pushing away all the messy stuff. But if we're willing to meet all that mess and that turmoil of our humanity and include it and embrace it, and to know that actually it is there that is our aliveness, our freedom, when we embrace the whole of our human experience. And that's when we embrace the whole of life. And it's also an energetic thing, because when we free up all this that we have pushed away, energetically we free ourselves up. Yeah, the life force can start to move again. And in that movement, maybe it is messy. Maybe we shout and scream and cry and move our bodies and we feel all the discomfort. But we're alive. We're free in that expression. And it's out of control. It's messy. It's wild. But it's alive. Yeah, Peter, another question.
Yeah, isn't it so that to be in control can give you peace of mind, can give you room? For instance, if you always put things on the same place, you always can find them, which give you a lot of freedom. You don't have to search for them each time. It's a simple example, but
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah,
So,
within the daily life, there can be some, let's say, more simplicity or ease with
yes,
certain behaviors or certain patterns that support the human daily existence. Yeah, but that in a way, you can play at being in control when you know that it's all out of control, you know. But if you're doing those kinds of things in a way where you're really believing that if I keep everything, in its place, then maybe I'll survive. It has a very different flavor. It comes really from this effort of trying to be someone that's controlling, trying to control life, right? But if we recognize, okay, it's out of control and it's all one big chaotic, wild mess. Okay, But within that, in my limited way in my daily life, okay, yes, it does help to have certain patterns or ways of existing for this human to bring some temporary rest
Right.
and peace and ease for this human. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, there's no need to live in chaos if possible, but it's not gonna help us survive in a way. It's just gonna make our daily life a little easier.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Sashko.
If you can say something about it, I have this problem. I call it problem. If I want to do an inner journey, I lay down, I close my eyes, want to calm down, then I feel that there's somebody who wants to control. But then sometimes when the control really goes away, then I feel asleep. So I'm then not in consciousness. To keep in this line in between, not to be asleep, but also not to be not to control. This,
Yeah.
the main thing on that point of the beginning of being relaxation, then this is I find this is a problem.
Yeah.
Can you say something about it?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, it's a nice point that you raise. First of all, to say that none of it is necessary in order to be free, and that you don't have to find that line. And I say that again to take the pressure off, because if you are trying to be, in a very serious way to do that or to be that, and you are judging yourself for not being able to find that line, then that doesn't help for sure, right? So first of all, that, yeah, but I would say that when the one that is trying to control and do something in trying to be aware, or do something in your inner journey, as you describe it, that one, maybe you can be curious about that one, that, what does it want? What does he want? What is he trying to do? Who is he trying to become? Does he have a goal? Just to be curious about that, and to be as honest as you can about that, first of all. And then also, what I always find the most simple is just to come back to the sensations, because the sensations don't have any reason for being there. They're just there, they're just felt.
Sensation is feeling?
Yes, feeling, sensation.
Okay.
Yeah. And, it's the thinking will maybe make a story about what the sensations mean to me, but if you can just feel the sensations themselves, there's no story there. It's just sensation felt. There's no me feeling them, there's just sensation felt. And that is that line in between, in the simplicity, in the, again, curiosity, a lightness with it. But it doesn't mean anything. I don't need to arrive anywhere or do anything. Just noticing it. And if I fall asleep, okay, nice also. It doesn't mean anything about me. Again, just staying curious. At what point am I falling asleep? And it doesn't matter anyway, so it's all very light. It's the seriousness that is really, in a way, the problem. it's not really a problem. We can just, it's also something to be curious about. Yeah.
But is it the same who wants to control, who is then very fast, wants to then go asleep, or?
Can be, yeah. It can be that they're wanting to fall asleep, or they're trying to fall asleep. Is another way of controlling. You know, it's more comfortable just to fall asleep or space out than to explore, to stay open and curious and to feel. Because sometimes feelings, sensations are too much, too overwhelming, or too uncomfortable. You know, so that's another way. And yeah, so maybe it's something to again be curious about, just noticing what was I feeling just before falling asleep. You know, there's no goal to it. There's no final achievement or nothing to achieve in it. So that just really gives it a lot of space. You're not trying to be someone who's getting enlightened here or waking up, or, you know, it's just you're exploring life in each moment. Okay. Okay. Okay, Peter, I would say last question. Yeah.
Isn't it also a bit the point of view of the existentialists who say life doesn't really have a meaning, a goal?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean that is the point. It is the truth. Life doesn't have a point or a meaning for me, right? That's the point. I mean, it doesn't have a point for me because the thing is we're usually believing or we're hoping to find meaning for me. Or we believe that there is meaning for me or point for me. And as we start to see that there is no me, actually, we can, you know, as we question, who am I? Who is here? Who is living this life? Who is experiencing everything?
Anybody at home?
Yeah, exactly. Who is home? Yeah. And we see, well, okay, there's life happening, right? We're not denying that life is experienced fully, and yet no one is experiencing it. It's not a separate me that is separate from the sensation, saying, I'm feeling these sensations, or these are my sensations. Sensations are just happening. And in seeing that there's no me, well, it goes together to see that there's no meaning for me. You know, and then life is just happening for its own meaning. You know, it doesn't have some bigger meaning necessarily that we know of, but it's meaning enough for its own sake. You know, the very fact that it's happening is full of meaning, but just not this meaning for me.
Makes me think of a YouTube video I saw from you, which you say life is streaming through me.
Yeah.
In fact, you say the same thing at this moment in another way.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Like life is simply happening in a way, using this woman now to speak, to live, to express, and at the same time using these this Peter guy to listen or to speak or to feel, to experience. Yeah. But anytime we look to find someone in here, we might find a thought that says me, but that doesn't actually mean that there is a separate entity in here.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for your questions. Okay, well, we'll stop there for today. And yeah, just to let you know, the next open meeting live streamed is, where is it? Yes, the 3rd of August. And the theme will be, how can I overcome fear and doubt? So another interesting theme. So I look forward to seeing you. And as I said, you're welcome to join me with a silence meditation every Tuesday morning, and also at the retreat in the Netherlands. So yeah, I look forward to meeting you again. Lots of love, and thank you everyone for participating today. Okay, lots of love to you all.